This is the Art and Business of Writing podcast, connecting you with writers and experts who can help to improve and promote your writing. Hello and welcome to the Art and Business of Writing. I'm your host, Chris Jones, and today I have an awesome and very special guest for you. This is none other than Kinja Dixon, the #1 sales exec in the world for 2013 and the author of Universal Talk Laws, How to Increase Your Net Worth with Words. Kinja, how's it going?
Unbelievably good, man. I'm just blessed and honored to be a part of your powerful show, The Art and Business of Writing.
Awesome. So Kinja, I want you to, take me back. I want to learn a little bit about you as a person, and then we'll delve into you as the writer and the entrepreneur.
Okay, well, I am now in my 18th month of a new world for me after originally coming from New York after leaving when I was 17 years old to go into the U.S. Air Force. That's what transitioned me into Virginia, where I was stationed at Langley. After I did my time at Langley, I was blessed to do carpentry for about a year until a friend of mine said that he made $1,000 talking on the phone when I was making $600 a week, almost killing myself. And so at that time, being motivated by money, being totally honest, I did some inquiry and I ended up switching into the telemarketing field. And that was my first introduction into sales. It wasn't face-to-face. It was originally talking on the phone. I talked on the phone for 6 months. Then I was promoted to a supervisor, and then I led a team for 4 years until 2004. The company had a shutdown. And that's when not only did I go through some major life growth, but I transitioned into the company that I just retired from in 2013, which was Fairfield Resorts. It transitioned into Wyndham. And for the last 10 years prior to my retirement, I was blessed to continuously get better at the art of face-to-face persuasion, psychology of myself, and went through so many transitions that have just really changed the way my life and all the people that I'm helping will live as well. Powerful.
Dude, that's phenomenal. What a story. Now, tell me a little bit about, how you went from these experiences to putting together your book. I want to know, because, yes. Because you have all these life experiences that you have, being the top salesman in the world, winning 2 awards that no one had ever done before in the same year. And now you're on a public speaking platform. Tell me how you were able to bridge that together through writing.
Well, first, I will say in 2009, I got up to 300 pounds, 35% body fat. When I got out the Air Force, I was 185 pounds. You'll see how that all ties in. So when I hired my nutritionist and the bodybuilder that basically told me how to redirect my life, I started journaling during that time. So when I was taking notice of how I was feeling, the urges that I was having, when I stopped drinking and just started doing self-psychology, that is when I got into a real comfortable state of writing. And it's so ironic that is when my performance in Wyndham with sales changed on a whole nother level, because it was almost like I started operating as it was almost like a machine versus dealing with the regular people at work. Because they were like, what changed with you? And I really understand that once I transitioned, started writing my thoughts, that is what got me into the habit of being so comfortable with giving my thoughts on paper. So I always have been journaling ever since that point. And way back in the day when I was in New York, I rapped for several years. I have a couple CDs. I used to do shows, talent shows. So literally, I am living my purpose, because when I look back at my life, I've been writing for over 25 years of my 36 years of living. Of course, writing in different standpoints, but it really has all come down to expression. So what ended up taking place was transferred into the book. When I won those 2 awards and did research, I didn't even know I was in the running for anything. I was just performing. That's another thing that helped my last few years, is I stopped counting the money and just started going into mastery of every single day, making sure I could become a better person. So when I won that second award, it was April 2nd of 2013. I won the second award. The first award I won in February. I remember when the idea of a book started. It was April 7th. I was driving in Virginia Beach, and I was thinking, it's time for me to put down my process in the form of a book. And honestly, Infinite Intelligence, whatever you would like to call it, poured all of this inspiration into me. And every single day from the 7th, I spent literally a very big percentage of my day writing out the book. I mean, every single day until it was complete, because the way I had the motivation of finding out I did something that was never done. And the way I really did at that point master the process, because I did it so well and kept getting better, it was such a comfortable way for me to release everything. And that's when my life changed forever, because I did not know I was going to retire. I did not know that I was going to be at this point doing commencement speeches and speaking all over the world. I'm actually starting my website in Spanish because I have such a big Spanish following. I'm doing my first seminar in Mexico in November. I had no idea all of these things were taking place. I just wanted to put my process in the form of a book.
Dude, that is phenomenal. It's funny, journaling is such a powerful thing because I think it cultivates all of our thoughts, all these processes that we have inside of us that we don't vocalize. And then once we put it on paper, then it becomes real,
Yes.
And I just, I'm a big advocate for journaling. So when I hear you say that journaling was kind of the way for you to bridge into writing, dude, I totally am on board with that.
Yes, it's something I recommend for every single person. When I talk to these schools, I talked to 60 schools this year so far. That's something I donated out of my time, middle schools, elementary, high schools. That's something that I recommend all the children start doing. And for anybody listening, what I help tell the children, I say, if you're kind of mixed up at night, right before you go to bed, just write the heading, what did I learn about myself today? That's one of the best ways to start the journal process. And as you get into the habit of doing that, you start really analyzing your feelings, your emotions. And one of the best ways to create a winner's brain is to have self-awareness. I'm actually in a course studying the brain right now. So that's directly from a course. Yeah, one of the number one ways to create a winner's brain is to have self-awareness. And that's one of the reasons why so many people keep bumping their head, is because they're not mastering themselves. They're trying to master outside situations. You got to start with yourself first.
Okay, so you talk about mastering yourself and learning more about kind of your own mental psychology. Let's talk about universal talk laws, because that's what you talk about in the book, right?
Yes, very, very much so. This book basically breaks down the first half of my life where I did not even realize that sales was so important. It transitioned my thought process from when I was playing the clock at the Air Force, when I was just being a normal person trying to do the least, trying to get the most. Then it documents the transition mentally when I started understanding the power of words with my first telemarketing opportunity. It transitions into how I felt when I went through my first company downsize. And that's something else I just want everyone to know. That's another thing that changed the direction of my life, is when 25 years old, thinking you're with a company for the rest of your life, and you come in one day and find out that they're saying this thing is over. And then within that month, meeting a wealthy gentleman that told me, man, if you keep working, you always going to be in that danger. You can work, but I'm telling you, you might want to start learning the other ways money is being generated. So investing, business owning, and understanding how to save. And that right there changed the direction of my life, because I really saw firsthand how nothing was promised. So it documents those feelings. It documents the transition when I almost was about to leave Wyndham Fairfield after the first 3 months of not really selling really well. It documents my transition. And then it goes into how to change your emotions, how to understand that everybody is a customer. That's why it's universal talk laws. It's a book that is now turned into a curriculum that is going to be serving companies all over the world, but it actually creates a process for people to understand how to mentally walk through the day, how to size up every conversation that you have, how to start your day, and how to properly have a conversation where you're no longer imposing your thoughts on people. You are asking proper questions after doing a proper greeting and setting up the conversation where they buy the idea that you have in mind. But the key element is you are giving every single customer a feeling that they want instead of imposing what you want. And that is what has changed literally the direction of my conversations and every single opportunity that has been given to me after I decided to go into this route. I made a choice. I'm blessed to be in a position where whether a book is sold or not, I put myself in a position where I'm good for a few generations. But I said, how I'm going to promote my book is I'm going to show people what universal talking does. So I'm going to live the life of a universal talker and help people and show them to follow this path of how to just create opportunity and help people along the way.
Dude, that's fantastic, dude. I love it.
Thank you, bro. I am honored every day. I wake up, I look at my gratitude list. That's one of the things that I recommend as well.
Right.
Gratitude list. And back to writing.
Yes.
You know, every person, one thing that helps me is literally performing at a top level every day and learning, constantly learning. It's a blessing because I've been doing it for now over 15 years. I've been selling for 15 years of my 36 years. I have been not only selling, but learning how to get better while mastering myself. So that's one of the first things I recommend anybody that's getting into writing or breathing. You need to really get into the habit of mastery of every single minute. And something, this is extra. I cut my TV off about 5 years ago.
Wow.
And that is one of the changes.
So no TV.
I have not looked at television. Like on Facebook, I've just seen that the BET Awards, one of the best things in the world. I have no idea what happened. I was in here writing and studying on this course, but literally I know some people may think it's overboard, but that is the choices you have to make on what type of level you want to take it to. Wow. I've made a choice after, after seeing my mother overcome with breast cancer, yes. After being in some situations when my drinking put me in some positions where I might not have even been living. I remember being thrown, this was back when I was 23, being thrown 70 feet from a vehicle and being blessed to not have any scratches. So when I collectively reflect on those situations, I'm really making up for lost time. So that's right. Why I feel like I have no more time to waste. I don't say everyone has to follow that route, but the amount of self-growth that I've been able to take advantage of in these last 6 years by not having any interruptions, just focusing on me and growth and my goals of helping people, I'm basically taking it back to the way Einstein and Henry Ford would live it. You know, they just came home and just focused on their path. And so that's the route I'm going to go with.
Dude, that's great. That is great. I love it, man. It's like, like we talked about before, how much time people lose watching television, doing things that don't matter. And you're taking all of that excess time that you would be doing nothing and creating productive moments out of it. I love it.
Yes, sir.
So let's talk about your writing process.
Yes, sir.
So tell me, how do you approach, when you were writing your book or, as you begin to develop your curriculum, how do you approach your writing? Do you kind of have a special spot that you write in? Do you, tell me about it.
All right. Well, with the book, that was a situation where I wrote down the chapters that day when I came home. It was so powerful. The chapters and of course there was some edits, but the way I did it, I wrote down the outlines of the chapters and then I just attacked each chapter one by one. And it wasn't a situation because I was in Virginia. I still have a Virginia and a New York residence. So I was in Virginia at the time when I was writing it. So it was a situation where everywhere I went, I had an app on my phone that was like a notepad. Wherever I went, when ideas just came into my mind, I just wrote them down and would jot down thoughts about that process And after it was done, I would edit. And of course, I got a professional editor after it was, I actually got 2 editors after it was done completely. But it was a situation where I literally lived in the moment. Like everywhere I went, I was thinking about a book. Something that comes to mind, a friend of mine invited me to a party. And I remember 4 of the people saying to me, why are you in this party texting the whole night? And they did not know that I was writing the book. I was in this party in the corner. I believe I was writing the section, like chapter 2, about when before I transitioned into my sales job, when I was given some acknowledgments. But man, it was a situation where I literally became addicted to the process. And that's one of the reasons that I believe I have been blessed to have the type of success that I'm having, is because I am truly addicted to the process. And It's not a special place, right? Because right now there's 2 locations in my residences where they are my comfort zones, where when I'm thinking about the curriculum or thinking about just blogs or these newsletters that I'm writing, I would sit there. But there's several times in my commute on the train or on the plane where a thought will just come to mind and I'll write it down, because I'm a student of Jim Rohn, Napoleon Hill, Tony Robbins, and I just know they preach that these little hunches that we get, these can turn into big ideas. So I don't like to depend on memory. So I have a couple apps on my phone and I just write it down as it comes to my mind. But in regards to the book, I lived that book, man, for the 6 months that it took. Everywhere I went. Before I ended up, I ended up waking up in the middle. I would wake up in the middle of the night, 3-4 o'clock in the morning, with thoughts about the book, and I would write. I'm serious, man. Like it was.
Wow, I love it. I love it.
I really, and as I'm studying metaphysics and the subconscious, and law of attraction, because I'm going into all different aspects of human development, I am an avid believer that if you eliminate all negative emotions, you constantly repeat to yourself what your goal is, it gets to a position where your future and your present start magnetically coming together. and where that moment, where it meets, is just bliss, man.
Oh. I tell you.
I'm so serious, man.
So you mentioned a few minutes ago that you have apps in your phone that you like to use. Why don't you recommend an app for one of our listeners?
Well, currently, the one that I use, and I apologize, this is not even an app. This is going to sound real hokey, but this is I text message and email myself. So, man, I have literally because that notepad app that I originally used,
yes,
I upgraded phones. So when I upgraded phones, I didn't use that app. So it's corny, but man, I will text message myself and email myself. I probably got like 600 emails on my phone that I send to myself, but it's on my email, so it's documented forever. And this is usually when I'm doing it, I come home and I transfer into my books, because I have these little books that have a heading. I'm right now in my corner. I have seminar books, seminars that I go to book. I have my journal book. I have my Napoleon Hill course book, my radio show book, my miscellaneous ideas book. So I have different books where I'll just jot down the thoughts that I have and, reflect. When I'm have some downtime, I'll reflect over those thoughts. And it's been working very, very well, man.
That's a good, it sounds like you got a good organized process there. Hey,
yes,
if it works for you, right?
Yes, but actually, I do need to get some apps, because it's probably a good way for me to put all of this into the cloud.
You might want to download Evernote, man. That's what I use.
Done. Well, thank you, man. I am going to jump on that right now. I appreciate it.
It's a fantastic tool, man. Because when I write, like I'm like you, I'll be at Busch Gardens in the line waiting for a roller coaster, typing in Evernote. I can relate.
Evernote, I appreciate that. Yeah, man. I'm going to jump on it. I'm a student, and that's another thing, that when things happen, they are happening for a purpose. And like right now, as we speak on my phone, I am downloading Evernote as we speak.
A man of action. I like it.
That's the way we have to be, because I believe an opportunity is present every single second of the day. But if we're not taking advantage of them and we are in an emotional state where we're not even aware, our life will mess around. I went to the cancer ward and talking to some of these people on their deathbed. The one thing that you hear is, I just wish I would have took more advantage of my time. When this person told me this, I wish I would have did that, but I didn't. So when you hear the similarities of what people that are at the end of their life, what they're saying, why not take advantage of their experience and utilize that urgency to take advantage of every single opportunity that we have? So I truly thank you, and I will see how this works for me, man. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. All right. So, as a writer, we all have that love-hate sometimes with the process. Is there any part of the process as you were writing your book that just drove you crazy?
Well, when I reflect on this, because of the motivation behind it, man, I will honestly say I have had tears of joy so many nights from the time I decided on April 7th, 2013 to do this. So I believe, and this is what I'll say, and I get a little emotional when I think about it. I truly, truly believe that if the right amount of urgency and motivation is placed behind anything you do, the limiting beliefs or the anxiety or any of the things that would usually happen really decline at a very, very high rate. And the momentum that was being built since that time, I really did not have. The anxiety that I had was, how do I create more time to write? And then as I started getting closer to the book being finished, then I started having those thoughts of, do I continue selling real estate or do I go full-fledged in this process? So I had some times where fears and some thoughts were going, but it did not have anything to do with writing because my motivation was so high. So I think that's a lesson for anyone that's getting into this process is your why. Darren Hardy, we hear it if we're into self-development. You hear the masters talk about having a big enough why. But if your why is big enough, all of these little excuses and anxieties and fears and I don't feel like doing it, all of that gets eliminated when you have a big enough why. So this is a lesson for someone that's listening that sees that they're in a position where they keep getting hung up on different little things. You have to figure out why that's happening. It's not the writing, it's your why. your why not big enough.
Nice.
Yeah, you know what I mean? If you're in a position where it's almost like if you don't get this done, your life is not going to continue the way it needs to, then you're not going to let little things get in your way. If you have an urgency of, in order for my family to eat, in order for me to live another day, in order for me to not leave this earth saying, I wish I could have, when you put all those things into a momentum type tunnel, you don't have room for anything else, man. Wow. Seriously.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And, let's dig a little bit on that because I really like what you were saying there. Let's get to like kind of the business of writing side of things.
Okay.
Now you said you were in real estate, and you were a world-class salesperson. I want you to really because I want people to get this. I want people to really understand what you left in order to pursue this book and this platform that you've built. Can you tell that story? Can you tell that story for me?
Yes, sir. Well, man, first of all, the reason why I am financially independent right now is because I left a job because of a downsizing where I was making $70,000 to $80,000 a year working with MCI WorldCom. Also, all of my MCI alumni, much love to you for listening. Okay, they telemarketed all over the world. And they ended up closing. And then I was given an opportunity where they said that if you sell well with Fairfield, there are people making $25,000 to $30,000 a month.
Whoa.
So I was like, wait a minute, what do you mean? But the only thing is commission only. And when I say that, you would get some type of per diem type cost where if you didn't sell, you'd be making somewhere between like $500 to $600 every 2 weeks, which is basically, even at that time, was not nothing that I could live off of. So the pressure was on. So after going through some rough patches, about my 6th or 7th month, the light bulb went off. And because of me learning from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, one of the reasons why people work for the rest of their life is because their lack of knowing how to save and their hunger on wanting to spend money on liabilities to show. I was going to say stacked, but I saved every single dollar that I was making, and I lived well below my means for my entire time. It took me till 2012 to get a new vehicle. I basically made my first $1 million by 2007. And that led to my demise because without me having the proper emotional intelligence, I started partying regularly, drinking, and that's what led me to my 2009 300-pound situation, 35% body fat. So that's when I will say school and sales really started, because when I eliminated drinking and I got my health together, the sales aspect and working on myself, understanding how to relate to these customers, coming up with a cookie cutter process where these people that were coming in on these timeshare presentations that was so set on not speaking to anyone, I designed processes where I was able to properly disarm them, let them know who I was, what my story was, and then I helped them get something that helped their life and their family's legacy. Man, ever since 2009, that's when my sales started becoming on a whole nother level. So my last year, I made my W-2 was $692,000. And before I left, I left in October, my W-2 was about $400,000. So it was a position where I really got to a point because of my self-development where I had to make a choice. And that's where the struggle was. It was like, man, you have mastered this process and you're doing very, very well. Or do you just want to pursue a life of helping people and writing a book? So it was really a situation where it was not about the money anymore. And that's one of the reasons why I have been so creative and been able to help so many people, from schools to entrepreneurship programs to, to single mothers to abusive family members. I mean, I've been speaking at events that you would not expect someone that's a master in sales to speak to, but it's really a situation where I'm communicating with people that, even though, yes, my expertise and my career background is sales, what I'm expressing to you all is how life is sales.
Wow.
In order for me to stop drinking, I had to sell myself on the urgency of why, in my background and in my situation, drinking is something you need to eliminate. In order for me to get to that point where I stopped eating and reconstructed my entire body, physically, mentally, I had to sell myself on that process. In order to not tempted to buy all the things that all these other people were buying that weren't even doing as well as I was, I had to sell myself on not letting liabilities and ego lead me down a world of hurt. So what I'm communicating to people in this life that I live is that, man, I not only mastered the sales communication process, but I'm constantly a student of learning how to sell myself on how to follow a process that will keep me going up and up and up.
Oh, that's fantastic. Just listening to you, all I hear is just self-discipline, self-discipline, self-discipline. And it's such a critical part to being successful, whether you're, like you said, whether you're in sales, whether you're a writer, having to kind of sit down and write your books or write whatever it is you're writing, just being able to be disciplined and make the right choices. So I really appreciate you sharing that.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it for sharing. And like I said, I'm thankful every day. I'm honored. And like I said, honored to meet you when we did meet. And I'm also honored to be a part of this process of helping the world.
Thank you. Now you're out promoting your book. You're speaking to people. What tips do you have for writers, those who are, putting their books together, ready to start to market, on how to promote themselves?
Well, I definitely recommend, first of all, you are going to, whether you have a self-publisher or whether you self-publish or whether you go with a publishing house, you are going to have to become a master in what you are doing. And what I mean by that is a master is the best student. So all that means is you're going to continuously have to learn about the area and industry that you're in. And you're also going to have to look at the people that are doing the best in that industry now and look at the ways they promote, which is, for instance, articles, going to publishing events where they have several authors talking about their situation. I definitely recommend going to my editor, Miss Matthews. She recommended going to the Book Expo. And that's where I was given the opportunity to become a student of Napoleon Hill's grandson, J.B. Hill. So that first book expo that I went at the Jacob Javits Center, they have it every year in New York. All of these little events I recommend going to. I also recommend journaling regularly. I recommend having some type of a platform where you can talk to people about, like this, how you did your process. I definitely recommend also a publicist. This is where I definitely give credit to the first publicist that I dealt with last year that had me on over probably 20 radio and television situations last year. So it's a mixture, I believe, of just constantly learning about the industry. I definitely recommend going to these events that have to do with your industry in regards to whether you're writing novels, whether you're writing nonfiction, whatever your industry is. Definitely going on Google, checking out what are some situations in your area, some workshops, and taking advantage of those signs. If you get cards from people, email those people. Every single card that I have ever gotten, and I don't even know how many. I have emailed those people. Whether they've emailed me back, that's up to them. But as a person of integrity, you need to follow up on every single connection that you get, because promotion is about word of mouth. Word of mouth is that's attached to your branding. If you can meet someone and you don't follow up with them, you're in a position where that could have been the segue into your next level of branding. So I pray that some of those ideas will be valuable to someone that's listening.
Oh no, absolutely. I love the part about just following up. When I was in BNI years ago, that was one of our little taglines, like, the money's in the follow-up.
Very much so. And that's one of the things that so many people that have these issues, and that's another thing I recommend. I want you to act as if someone is following you with the camera and they're doing a documentary, and the name of the documentary is, "This is one of the most dedicated authors in the world. Let's see how they live on a 24-hour basis."
Ooh, I like that.
Live your life like that. See, a lot of people on the public side want to say these issues, but when we go into their home, how many hours are you looking at TV? How many hours are you going out and doing these things that are not actually helping your process? So I know there's people out here that's dedicated, but it's time to get even more dedicated. Let's take it to a level. So even if you are dedicated, like I did yesterday, let me see what else I can do to take myself to another level. Because our brain, we're only using 5 to 7%. And I'm gonna be totally honest. Going through this course about understanding the brain is definitely making me clear that our mind is a muscle. And if we want to work, and if we want it to get stronger, we gotta put it to work. And I'm talking about some of the work that we got to put it through. It may feel a little uncomfortable, but that's how I went into the gym that first day when I was 300 pounds. I was very uncomfortable. Now I'm actually doing my first model shoot for a clothes designer. These things wouldn't happen if I did not go through those uncomfortable stages that we are built to go through. Every time we have uncomfort, there's a better part we learn something from that uncomfortability, that uncomfort that we go through. Yes, indeed.
Good stuff. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. So now I just want to pick your brain a little bit if I can.
Oh, yes.
All right. Tell me about some authors or writers that you admire yourself.
Jim Rohn. I'm listening to Jim Rohn on a regular basis. YouTube is such a blessing. Napoleon Hill, of course, he is the person that in 2009, I lived and breathed Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, The Art of Success, all of his writings. Tony Robbins, the book Unlimited Power.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, that helped change my life, understanding how to master state. Darren Hardy, The Compound Effect. Alchemist, from, Pablo Coelho. So I learned from Will Smith life, but on a writing level, Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins, and Napoleon Hill are my 3 go-tos that I listen to regularly. I also recommend James Allen, The Majesty of Calmness, and As a Man Thinketh.
Well, you are a very well-read man.
Oh, I'm just getting started. I'm right now looking at Dr. Deming. I'm reading the autobiography of Gandhi right now. Man, the things he went through, powerful. Dr. Deming, I'm reading. I'm actually going to open that up. That's the gentleman. People don't know why the Japanese have become so excellent in their skill with developing products. Well, around the 1950s, right after the war started, our president sent a doctor over there, Dr. Deming, who showed them the secrets to how to have ongoing success in the workplace. So I'm actually going to start on that book.
Excellent.
Dr. Deming, the name of that is the American who taught Japanese about quality. So that's something
Excellent.
I'm jumping on. And literally, there are 70 books in my library right now that I have not read that I am so eagerly just to jump on as life goes on, man. I just remember all the years of living, and this is me talking about myself. So I can talk about myself, living in mediocrity, living thinking that because I was making a big check, I could just party and live life and not do nothing about growth. I remember those days. So I just say, I'm going to make up for that time by just living the life of a true person dedicated to helping myself become better, because I also have a responsibility to all of these people that are depending on me.
Excellent. So, hey, if you could be any literary character, who would you be and why?
And when you say character, someone that I already have studied, or
like it could be someone you studied, it could be Harry Potter, it could be any literary character from any book that you've ever read or wanted to read.
I would love to have walked down some of the paths. Now, do I get a chance to come back to my life?
You spend 24 hours in the body, then you switch back into Kinja again.
Okay, perfect. Because I read The Four Agreements. That's a book by Don Miguel Ruiz. That's a book that Oprah actually recommended in her book, What I Know for Sure. So actually, as I'm thinking, I would love, and this, let me make sure everyone's clear on this, but I would love to have walked through some of the doors and lived the life of Oprah during the time frame when she decided to go from movies to getting into starting her show. If I could go through her life during that day when she made that decision that, you know what, and I don't know which day it would be, but just one of those days when she made that choice that she was about to design a show and her network, I would have loved to just walk in those shoes and just be in that mindset, not a woman, but in her mindset of what she was going through. I had to clear that up, and all. We did just get some new rights and everything, and I don't mind nobody doing nothing. I respect everyone. I just want to make sure everyone's clear. That process is what I would have loved to witness. She transitioned. And, I love everybody. I'm all about that.
Good. Oh, I know you do. So let me ask you this. You happen to be an entrepreneur who is a writer. Why is it important for those who want to pursue entrepreneurship to write?
Wow. I definitely believe that my book has a lot to do with me being considered an authority and an expert in the field that I speak in. So it's basically like one of the first steps based off of the studying the people that I've looked into in my field, even in novels, especially when I went to the book expo. Like writing a book is almost like the first step in showing that you are credible in your field. I mean, on the level of wanting to help the world, and this is what I want to make sure. Yeah, this is writer. So yeah, for writers listening, yes, it's very important because it shows that it allows people to dig into your mind and see exactly what you went through. And it puts you into a position of power, and it shows that you are proven in your field. And I don't believe there's a such thing as a bad book personally, because I have learned so much. I have had people say things about a book that have literally changed my life. So I just believe everybody has a few books in them. And it starts off with journaling and really starting to understand yourself. But it makes you a position of power and gives you some credibility for you want to get into speaking or helping someone. I believe it's a very good tool.
Awesome. Good answer. Thank you so much. All right. So closing, can you tell our listeners how they can connect with you, Kinja?
Well, right now, kdixon@kinjadixon.com is a great email. That's what I give people that are interested in getting some information or picking my brain. That is directly linked into kinjadixon.com. That is my website, KinjaDixon.com. And anyone that wants to have a trial of my new online virtual training that several companies are already on the waiting list for, DixonOnDemand.com. That's also a great way to contact me as well, especially when that goes live in about 2 months. But DixonOnDemand.com. And no, that's not a television channel. Because when we were creating that, it was like, oh, like there's something that has to do with on demand.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It was called, DixonOnDemand.com. So that's the best way to get a hold of me. And I would love to help any way that I can based off my time. I'm not one of these people that get too big for my britches and feel that anybody's email is not important for me to respond to. That's one of the things I talk about in my curriculum. Everybody has to get the respect that you would give to your closest loved one. If everyone thought that way, how beautiful would this world be?
Absolutely. Wow, what an inspiring episode. If you weren't able to take notes, I've got you covered. Visit my website at www.chrisjonesink.com/podcast to get today's show notes, as well as access other episodes you may have missed. Be sure to subscribe and rate the podcast on iTunes. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time.